If you would, please.
To America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Please remain standing and prepare yourselves for worship in the manner in which you're accustomed. I'm going to do this in two parts. The first one, thank you, Mayor. I get to do a moment of silence for the tragedy that hit so close to home in our community here. And then I'll go into the invocation. So just a moment of silence, please bow your heads. Oh, great and wonderful God, thank you for being here with us in these proceedings, in our community, in our hearts. I ask that in the light of all the tragedy that's been hitting us, that you will be with us and that we will know your peace. In your great name we pray, amen.
Amen. All right, tonight we are going to be changing up the agenda a little bit. I'm holding off on oral communications for just a little bit, and I'm bringing item 8A forward. We do have some people that do want to speak on that, and it seems that it's an item that definitely deserves all of our attentions. So anyone that wishes to speak on item 8A will be allowed to speak. We do have Suzanne Schroeder from the District Attorney's Office, Tony Rukakis' office, that will be speaking and answering questions. Now, anyone that comes up after that and has any questions at all in regards to item 8A, I would ask the city manager to make a list of the questions, and so we can answer them at the end of the oral communications on item 8A only. All right, Suzanne?
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. I'm actually here and thanking the council for putting this on the agenda. I think it's a very important issue, and I know that it's important to law enforcement. Today was a really good day in protecting children, especially up in Westminster. Westminster was the first city in Orange County after the county passed their ordinance to pass their version of the ordinance. In Westminster, it was virtually what the county passed. And today there was a sex offender who had entered one of their parks on 2 different occasions, cited by the same officer. Apparently he was a slow learner. He was convicted and he got 60 days in jail. And the issue with this ordinance is that you'll never get the stats to satisfy you as to how many children you prevented from being molested. And the old saying, they asked Jesse James, you know, why do you rob banks? Well, that's where the money is. And why do you rob, why would a sex offender go to parks? Well, that's where the children are. And I have, and I apologize, I didn't realize this was on the agenda until late last week, and the whole Seal Beach thing hit. And so I submitted a letter from the district attorney to each one of you to consider. And basically, the most disturbing thing that I've seen regarding this is the Garrido situation. That's the guy who kidnapped little J.C. Dugard. She's a former Orange County resident up in Northern California, and he kept her for almost 2 decades. And he and his wife were going to parks and basically videotaping children, looking at children swinging and finding that sexually titillating, and trying to determine which child to kidnap and to sexually molest. Unfortunately, it's extremely disturbing, but that's what we live with. We have, I know that Los Alamitos is a very safe city. You only have if you want to say only, but you have 5 registered sex offenders who must register themselves on the Megan's Law website. But just across the freeway, you've got Long Beach that have more than 766, and you've got Cypress, you've got all these different cities, you're an island, and anybody from the state of California, whether they're from San Francisco or San Diego, they could come into your park and they could be a sex offender, and it's just a great tool for law enforcement to approach somebody who may be videotaping children or acting suspicious, approach them, find out if they're a sex offender, and they can do something about it. And I'd be happy to take any questions. All of these issues have been vetted for a long time by county counsel, lawyers from my office. We've looked at every which way in the constitutional angle, legal angle, and we believe it's constitutionally safe. I know that that it's just a great tool to keep children safe in our community. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll make a list of them for you.
Okay.
Is there any additional staff report on this?
Yeah, let me start by introducing. I know the chief and I and the mayor pro tem have been working on this and looking at this for the last month or so.
Now,
and
this
it looks
was
like the timing was correct on this.
This was brought forward by.
Correct, by the mayor pro tem originally. Then the chief and I have been studying it for the last month or so, and it looked like the time was appropriate to get this on the ordinance, or to get this ordinance on the agenda for consideration on that. And then, Chief, there's any more you want to add to this? Before?
Give a brief statement.
Yeah, why don't you?
If you would, please.
Well, as you know, earlier this year, the Orange County Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to adopt an ordinance that establishes county parks as child safety zones. And for the protection of children who gather in parks, the ordinance restricts persons required to register as sex offenders from entering these safety zones unless they have written permission from the sheriff. Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakis, who along with County Supervisor Sean Nelson developed this ordinance, is now urging cities within Orange County to adopt similar ordinances to extend the same prohibition to city parks. What you have before you is the proposed ordinance number 11-9 to be added to the Los Alamitos Municipal Code. It specifically names each of the parks in our city and designates them as child safety zones, which, if adopted, would make it a misdemeanor crime for any registered sex offender to be in the park without permission from the police department. The purpose and intent of this ordinance is to protect children by restricting the access of registered sex offenders to locations children regularly gather, thus reducing the risk of harm by impacting the ability of sex offenders to be in contact with children. Although Chelsea's law already prohibits certain sex offenders who are on parole from entering parks where children regularly gather without express permission of their parole agent, our local ordinance would expand that restriction to any registered sex offender, whether on parole or not, without the written permission of the Los Alamitos Police Department. Similar ordinances have already been adopted in many other Orange County cities, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anything else, City Manager?
Nothing else.
All right. At this time, we'll open it up to public comment on this item. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on it? All right. Seeing none, we're going to bring it back to the council. And this was originally brought forward by Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. And do you have any comments on this as to why you brought it forward? Or?
Well, I just thought this ordinance, I've been following it since we basically were going through the Chelsea's law, and at the county level, as they've been trying to get this to be a little bit more protective for the children of Orange County. I thought, we'd like to see how they handled it at the county. I've been kind of watching this thing go across different cities, and when it got to be something that I thought that we might be able to utilize in our city, started working with the district attorney's office and asked for a draft ordinance of that, and that's when I started just trying to get a perspective to get this item on the agenda to get everybody else's input. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Back into rotation, Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So one question, I think, either to District Attorney's Office or to Chief. So does this just add teeth to law, or does it actually codify a new law that we can now have something that's, we can, take action on?
Well, it actually expands some of the restrictions that already exist.
Oh.
There are already restrictions for residency, and then, as I mentioned, there's restrictions that would prohibit certain sex offenders from entering parks. Mm-hmm. Those that are supervised on parole. This actually expands that.
Okay, so it's a broader coverage, and it provides your staff or your force with the ability to ask questions and perhaps take action if it's something that's inappropriate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
All right, Councilmember Poe.
Thank you. I've been reading quite a bit of this, and we did get the letter that you sent us here. We got this online earlier today, so I have gone through all of it, and I just want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Edgar for bringing this to our agenda. I think that anything that we can do that it's up to us to do everything that we can do to protect the children in our community. And if this is one added layer, then I'm all for it.
All right, thank you. I have to agree. And when you realize how many that we have within these cities around Los Alamitos, it's a concern. And because we don't have borders, people can drive into the city at any time. And to know that this is an extension, if I'm not mistaken, onto the parole, pretty much, as far as the ordinance goes, I know that it's going to definitely benefit our city and our residents and add another layer of safety for all of our children within the community. All right, Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that we're very blessed. We're a small community. We all know each other and we look out for each other, but these people seem to find their way, and this is what the council's here for, is to pass ordinances that will protect the community and give you a better quality of life. So, of course, we support it 100%.
Very good. Sounds like we don't have any additional questions. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for staff recommendation.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Marilyn.
I'll second.
Okay.
Don't all jump at once.
Really. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Suzanne, I wanted to thank you for coming, and we didn't have any questions for you at all.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I know this will go a long ways to protecting the children of Orange County. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, let's move back to the regular agenda now. All right, we're going to move on to regular oral communications. If at this time, any individual in the audience may come forward and speak on any item within the subject matter or jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to no more than 5 minutes per speaker. Are there any speakers?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Dean Gross. I'm a Los Alamitos resident, and I'm also a member of the West Orange County Community Emergency Response Team, also known as CERT. On Wednesday, October the 12th, at approximately 2 o'clock, our CERT unit was activated and directed to report to a command post in Seal Beach. The incident that took place in Seal Beach we're all vehemently aware of. It is both tragic and unfortunate. It just goes to point out to all of us that these things can occur at any time, at any place, and we just have to be prepared for it. I extend my deep sympathies to the residents of Seal Beach who have suffered, to the victims of the tragic shooting who have also suffered, to those that were in the salon at the time who we've yet to hear from, who are going to be suffering for many, many months to come with mental problems and mental issues, just trying to cope with what transpired and why. The reason for me coming tonight is that I spent about 15 and a half hours at the crime scene Wednesday night while the police officers from many jurisdictions participated and helped in helping to unfold the issues of the crime. As a resident of Los Alamitos, I want to commend our police department who responded immediately as soon as the calls came out. Any of the news photos that you happen to see, you will see most of our officers that were down there, both helping in terms of detective information when the suspect was taken into custody. One of our sergeants was there in plain clothes, but recognizable to those of us that know him. And it just points out the value that we have achieved through Westcom by having all 3 police departments, both Cypress, Seal Beach, and Los Alamitos, on the same radio frequency. And when something like this happens, it's not just the 6 or 7 officers that are on duty in any given city, it's all of us, all of the communities that are involved. And there was no question from the standpoint of borders, or no question waiting for somebody to say we need backup and support. It was automatic, it was routine. In addition to the immediate cities, Long Beach responded with both detective personnel. The Orange County Sheriff responded, Huntington Beach responded, Westminster responded, Fire Department responded with the local agency, the local trucks, as well as ones from Huntington Beach. The Huntington Beach CERT team came on later in the evening to assist us with the perimeter control, which was what our responsibility was. But we should be very proud in this community of the fine work that our police officers rendered and assisted Seal Beach in the terrible crime that occurred and the outpouring that's still continuing on. Chief, I can't say enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers?
Good evening. I'm Brad Sheridan, and I would like to let you know I'm here because a couple of weeks ago I read in the newspaper that Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Poe, Councilmember Edgar, the 3 of you wanted me to publicly apologize to you for some comments I made over a year ago in June from the podium here because I had hurt your feelings. It wasn't my intention to hurt anyone's feelings, but let me be clear, I will never apologize for utilizing my First Amendment right of free speech to stop corruption. Obviously, you forgot what I said over a year ago. So, to briefly recap, that was when it was clear to me and many others that the 3 of you were about to enter into an illegal trash contract. A contract that would force Los Alamitos taxpayers and ratepayers to overpay by $6.5 million. I pleaded with the 3 of you not to enter into that contract, not to break the law, and definitely, even if you did, not to use our tax dollars to defend yourselves when you get caught. Well, as we all know, or maybe those who are listening don't know, 10 days ago, the 3 of you did get caught. The Orange County Superior Court Judge, Judge Banks, declared that that trash contract I warned you about, and many others did, was indeed illegal. Now that the truth is known, Council members Edgar, Poe, and Stevens, the only apology owed is the apology that the 3 of you owe to the residents and the businesses of this city, to those that, well, you offended, that you hurt, that you misled, when you put your own selfish desires ahead of your civic obligation to those citizens that you were elected to represent. I know the 3 of you have the legal right, as I stand here at the moment, right here, right now, to apologize for what you did to the rest of us. I'm going to go ahead and count to 3 so there aren't any favorites and let you apologize in unison. 1, 2, 3. Wow. That's the sound of a pin dropping for those at home. The silence is deafening. You 3 claim to be public servants and you won't even apologize for what you've done. You're not public servants, you're a public nuisance. Shame on you, Councilmember Edgar, Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Poe. You don't belong up there on the dais. In my opinion, you belong behind bars. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, if you would, take some notes. I would like you to answer a few of these questions. All right, next speaker, please.
J.M. Ivler. I'm here to thank our city manager for finally getting the answers to the questions to me and the resident that asked them. Unfortunately, they arrived yesterday, and so I really cannot speak to the concerns they raised because we haven't had a chance to actually look at the meeting minutes from the Planning Commission meeting in which resolution number 06-10 was generated from. I will hopefully be back in 2 weeks with my concerns that I hope the council will address appropriately, if there are any. Again, I'd like to thank the city manager for his time. I only wish this had come 2 weeks after it had been asked by Council Member Mejia and not 2 weeks after it was directed by Mayor Stevens. It would have come around 6 to 8 weeks ago and would have been a dead issue most likely by now. Again, thank you, City Manager. Thank you for ordering it be done, Mayor Stevens. And we'll be back. The resident and I have to go through this, but we'll be back to address any concerns we have based upon the answers provided. Have an outstanding evening.
Thank you. Any additional speakers?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff. Javier Mejia, La Salle resident. I have a couple of concerns, I guess I would say. I'd like to find out what's going on Lexington, over there on the Cypress, I guess next to the church between the Cottonwood and Arrowhead. It seems they've ground down all of the street markings, center stripes, stop bars, everything from one end to the other, and it's been that way. My guess is about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit less, but I'm just kind of curious. It seems like a huge safety issue. I know that's not probably our safety issue, but our residents do use that street, and I'd like to find out what's going on there, as I'm sure others would like to know. I would like to also thank you for installing the test speed bumps in the alley, at least in one alley. I haven't noticed in any other alleys. I think it's nice to finally see something hit the pavement. If that, but I do have a couple of concerns, and I'd like to find out when they're going to discuss maybe the cost of the speed bumps that they're using and how that test period is going to work. If there's any decision, those speed bumps that are put in there, they seem, although they're great and reflective, you see them the first time you slow down, but they're very small. I think the alleyway is actually more difficult to traverse than the speed bump. But nevertheless, I mean, it's great to see something moving forward. I'm happy about that. I just want to make sure that we think it all the way through before we put something in across that whole area that's maybe potentially not going to work. What else? Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers? Seeing no additional speakers, I'm going to bring it back to the City Council. I would like to, first of all, ask the City Manager, what are we doing with the speed bumps, and can we come up with a cost on them, and what is the program?
I'll let Dave answer that question.
All right.
Yeah, we picked this alley as a test alley for the speed humps that we put in there to see how the effect it would have on speeding in the alley, which has been an issue, you know, for the last, well, it's been up and down for the last like 6 months of investigation on that. They were installed last Monday. We did do a speed survey test 2 weeks prior to putting the humps in to get a base level of traffic volume and speed out there. These are the speed humps, not the speed bumps. The speed bumps are a little bit narrower but taller and slow cars down a lot more, but they also have been causing car damages and other traffic-related even accidents on those, and so some of the cities have been sued over using the speed bumps versus the humps. So we put the humps in as a first shot to see how that would reduce the traffic. We did put them in 2 locations, about approximately 400 feet apart in the alley. It cost roughly $2,000 to install, to buy the parts and have staff install those. The speed humps will be in there for a 2-week period. Then we will run again another speed survey. And by the way, the speed survey is a 7-day, 24-hour per day speed survey. So and that costs roughly $500 to do that speed survey. So we'll do that one more time afterwards and then compare the results of before and after. After that, the results of all this will be taken back to the Traffic Commission for them to review all the data and make recommendations that would then present it back to the City Council after that. So there's kind of an update on the speed humps.
All right, thank you. Quick question. Do you think that 2 weeks is long enough?
The 2 weeks is for the local cars to get used to the fact there are speed humps out there and to get to their normal driving pattern, again, with the humps in place. Because like I say, anytime you first put a speed hump, people will notice it more and they will slow down some. They get used to it. What we want them to do is to be used to having them there and see what their speed will be after they're used to it.
All right.
Then we will run it for another week. We won't instantly take these humps out until after the whole study is done and let the Traffic Commission recommend what they want to do. And
Very good.
bring back.
Mayor, if I may, since I'm the one who brought this forward, when we talked about putting the speed humps in, what I explained was sometimes we go to conferences as council members, and this is some of the knowledge that you get when you're there. The ones that I had mentioned were they elevated slightly, they were flat for some distance, and then elevated again. I know that you're concerned about accidents in the alley. That's exactly why we asked for those to be put in. But I think that the size of these is so minimal, you can pass right over them without even noticing them. So I don't know that it's going to deter the traffic. It may for the first couple of weeks because, as you said, people are getting used to them. But my concern is even if we leave them, it may not do what we need done. And I have had residents that ask me to thank you, city manager. They just like that the city's listening to them. I think that's what most people want. What I would like to ask is that if we don't see a slowing of traffic, and I'd like to ask that we do the study a little bit further out because people will start to go faster as they realize those speed humps really don't deter you much. I think you'll get a better read for what the traffic's going to be. And then I'd like to ask if that doesn't deter the traffic, I don't think you have the same kind of situation in an alley that you have on a street. And I know that in some of the bigger cities, they use these on their streets. They don't use the small ones, they use the larger ones. I could see where the potential for accident because people are traveling at a faster speed on a residential street, that might be a problem. But in the alley, they've got the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. They also have the speed humps, but I think that there's less chance for them to like veer off of a speed bump and crash into someone because they're really not traveling down the alley that fast. Really, the reason we ask for these is for the safety of the children because there are a few parks around, but some of the parents are concerned because of the thing that was brought up earlier with the pedophiles. And they don't want their children at the parks if they can't be there with them. And so they play at home. Well, in the apartments, there isn't a lot of place for the kids to play. So they play out on the back pads, which abut that alleyway. And so in order for the kids to be safe and play out there, I think we really need to do something significant to deter that traffic from being so rapid. So that's what I guess, would we go back for the Traffic Commission to look at it? I'd like for us to ask if we could potentially go with something a little bit larger so people might really actually have to slow down as opposed to kind of just sailing right over them.
In absence of a non-Brown acted agendized item, I think that we can make sure that your comments get reflected and then report back to the Traffic Commission, correct?
Correct.
Great,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for looking out for the kids.
And moving on, City Attorney, do you have any answers to any of the questions brought up by Mr. Sheridan?
I'm not sure they were exactly questions. I can offer a comment back and just a clarification, make sure everyone understands that the judge in the lawsuit concerning the waste contract threw out all of the allegations of corruption. There was no finding of corruption. The judge found that all of those allegations were unfounded and there was no factual basis. The judge did find about 10 days ago that the ordinance that was adopted in 2008 was in his mind unclear, and he had concerns about the procedure, and he sent the matter back to the city council to determine what to do next, what steps to take next. And that's obviously something that will be discussed by the city council over the coming weeks and months, and we'll make a determination about where to go. There'll be some closed session discussions about the litigation and possibly some open session after that. But that's where we are. It's a matter of the process. There's no issue of corruption.
All right,
May I ask
thank
a
you.
question, just very quickly for a point of clarification? I don't claim to be a lawyer, so if I'm asking a question that doesn't make any sense, I apologize. My understanding of what the judge says is that the council did not follow its own ordinance, and was there a misdemeanor that the judge felt was the punishment for this?
No.
Okay, maybe you can explain that then.
There's no issue of a crime. He did not talk about any misdemeanor, any corruption. In fact, his decision wasn't based on the merits of the contract itself. It was about the procedure. And yes, you are correct that he said that he felt that a different procedure under the code should have been followed.
Right.
It's the same issue that the city has been discussing for over a year now.
Sure.
And his view was that the 2008 ordinance was unclear, and that he thought the equipment and supplies procedure should have been used. And obviously, I disagree. Your former city attorney disagrees. But that's what happens when ordinances aren't clear. Sometimes there's a disagreement. So that's where we are.
Okay, and at one of the prior hearings, I believe that one of the things that the judge said was, if the ordinance is ambiguous, then you go back to the original intent. Is that right? I believe those were his words.
That's a bit of a simplification, but yes.
Okay.
That's the general.
So yeah. So then my question would be, and I know you stand on that the ordinance was followed, but one of the things that I brought up before we went forward was my concern about the ordinance not being adhered to. So what kind of, we may not even be able to answer that. We can't ask any questions. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that there was, clarification for me, because I'm not part of the process. Only the other 4 members of the council are. And since I don't get a lot of paperwork telling me what's going on back and forth from staff, I think I've received 2 things on filings, and I hear from the public there have been many more. I'm not sure why I'm not getting it. It's not closed session information, but just trying to stay up on it without having the benefit of you being able to speak to me regarding it.
Okay, and as for what you get copies of and what you don't, I'd be happy to talk to you separately. Sure. And explain what the rules are regarding that. And you basically have the same rights as any other citizen to get copies of things by Public Records Act request. When a council member has a conflict on an item, which is the situation with you in this lawsuit,
right,
then you don't have rights as a council member to copies. You have rights as a citizen, and you certainly do have rights to get copies of things if you'd like.
Okay, I'm just confused because I have gotten 2 sets of copies, but not others. So there's an inconsistency.
There have been 2 press releases issued, and that's what's gone out publicly. I mean, I think
No, that's not what
I think you're referring to certain
about the
pleadings.
actual actions, yes. Yeah.
Right. At some point, I believe you made a request for some pleadings, and they were given to you, but
No.
that was my understanding. And
Okay.
if there are other things that you want, like anyone else, you just...
I just want to be informed so I know when people ask me questions, I'm not giving them incorrect information. That's why I asked for the point of clarification. You're the expert. Sure. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to bring it back, and thank you for answering those questions and clarifying it for us and for the people, the residents. We're going to move on to item number 6, Register of Major Expenditures.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Could we please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Graham Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Aye.
Councilmember Poe.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Aye.
Mayor Stevens.
Aye. Going to move it on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Does anyone have anything they want to pull?
I'd like to pull A and C, please.
And I'd like to pull D.
I'd like to pull H, please.
Motion to remove the remainder.
Second.
Is there a remainder?
Is there a remainder?
A, C, D, and H, is that correct?
Yeah. Is there a second to that
I
motion?
seconded it.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. All right, Councilmember Kusimoto, you wanted to pull item A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on the minutes, on the discussion item number 10A and also on 9A, it did mention I have a conflict of interest. I do believe procedurally we do need to identify that conflict of interest, and I just wanted those added to the minutes that I live within 500 feet of the item under consideration. That's why I had to be recused. So I talked with the clerk and let her know that's what I'd like to see.
All right, very good. Councilmember Mejia, you also pulled A?
No, but I generally lose. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Just to voice for the record, Wendy, if we can, I feel that the meeting minutes in their format do not provide a historical record, which I believe we're responsible for as council members for the future of this city. And so with that, I vote no.
Okay.
If I may,
Oh, sorry about that.
as long as it was pulled. Under oral communications, Chuck Sylvia resident, it reports Chuck Sylvia resident stated opposition for item 10A, and I believe he stated that he was in favor. If you could check that. And if I am correct, make that correction. Thank you.
Anyone else on item A? All right. Do we have a motion to move that item?
move.
We're going to take them one at a time. You made a motion?
Yes.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Councilmember Kusimoto, I'm going to take it ABCs. You also requested item C.
Sure. So I do want to recuse myself from voting on this one because I am still conflicted on this issue, so I will not vote. And it's not an abstention, it's a recusal.
All right. Any additional comments on item C?
Move it.
I just, if I could very quickly say, I wanted to say thank you to the residents that came forward, because many times we're trying to make decisions that affect you and we don't hear from you. And they took the time to come down to the last meeting, let us know that staff had done a great job working with them and that they felt comfortable moving forward with this. I just hope that we don't have any surprises in the future by moving this forward. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you, Mayor.
All right. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one person will recuse themselves from that one.
Who was the second?
I think Marilyn was supposed to.
You were the second, weren't you?
I can be the second.
That's
was
what
a
I have in
second.
my notes.
It was so long ago. All right.
It's a 1-2 act up here.
I can be whatever you want me to be.
All right. Councilmember Poe, you asked for item D to be
Yes,
pulled.
I did. Could we have a staff report on that?
Mayor and City Council members, excuse me. On September 29th, we put the construction bids out for 4 roof projects. Are we out there? We had bids come in. We sold 5 sets of bid plans for contractors. All were asking questions on the projects, but we only had one bidder turn their bids in. I listed the bid numbers in there, and it exceeded the budgets that we had available for them. And what we'd like to do is to repackage it, concentrate more on some of the projects that we can handle with our budget constraints, and go out to bid, and also do a better job at maybe marketing our projects better. I did talk to some contractors of why they didn't propose on it, and they said, well, some other cities had some other roof projects that were out, like Irvine. They had 20 bidders. It was one large roof area. It was easy to go look at and do. We had 4 small ones. It was more complicated. And it just didn't seem to be worth their while at the time. So we want to kind of make it a more closer package and not spread it out so much, and take them down, try and get them done one at a time. So.
Okay, I guess that was my answer. The common sense, or at least to me, was that obviously you did a very good staff report, was that in order to get this within our budget, we may have to eliminate some of these at this time.
Correct.
And is the thought that we would do the one that is, start with the one that is most distressed and needs the most work and work our way down?
We will. We're also, the community pool on the base gave us some very stringent criteria to fix that, and they made us basically do a Cadillac version to fix it. And you can see the price tag came at $85,000 for a flat roof, and that's something that we will not spend that kind of money on. We're going to go back to the base and say, okay, we can't afford this, which I really had a good idea, but I needed proof to go back to the base and go, we're going to try and do some minimal repair to stop the leaks. Because we're going to install a brand new heater in there in a couple weeks for the pool and all that stuff, you know. We want to at least stop it from pouring rain inside the building, but we're not going to spend this kind of money for it just because they have this type of roof they want everywhere. But the community center, the teen center, the police department right now is leaking. We do have an insurance agent out looking at the police station leaks and some other things, trying to see if we can combine what they're going to do with some of the stuff to help the price down. The museum is not leaking like the other roofs, and maybe that can be delayed a year for that. If we touch the museum, you have to replace the entire roof. It is that fragile of a roof. I mean, it's not just removing the tile. It's removing the tile, removing all the wood structure on top and redoing it because of the age and what's going on up in there. So, but right now it's not acting like the community center and the police department and the others are. So trying to push that one out to a further next year's budget on there. So, and trying to get the prices down too on everything.
Well, thank you very much. And I know that time goes by very quickly, but it seems to me that I recall we have been spending money on roofs quite a bit over the past 10 years.
You have. You did it like 5 years ago, but what happened is the lining underneath the tile and all that only had a 5-year warranty on it instead of a 20-year, which is what it should have had. 25 years normal. It went in with the 5-year warranty lining, and it was a cheaper thing to do at the time due to, I think, some money constraints then. But those are what are leaking now. We can't go back and say, hey, your liners quit working. You know, it's leaking. And say, well, your warranty's expired.
And we did do a pretty significant emergency repair last year in one of the community rooms in the rec center because it was leaking.
So I guess I don't guess, I know. My concern is that for the community, the amounts here are ranging from $22,000 at a low up to, well, we've already talked about if we take out the community pool, to $50,000 at a high for 3 different projects. And my concern has always been that whenever we do any work, capital improvements to the property, those types of things, that we get quality workmanship, because you're just throwing good money after bad if you don't. It comes back in 5 years to get you. So I hope that lessons have been learned and that we don't do a quick fix with a 5-year product when we should have had a 20-year product.
And that's why on this bids that we did, we actually had an architect design the roof repairs this time to make sure that we weren't going to repeat what happened last time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve. I just wanted some more information.
I have a quick question. Are we going to be replacing, when we do it, if we decide to move forward with it this year or next year, are we going to be putting the tiles back on the roof? And if we do that, is it significantly more than just a standard roof? And if that's the case, is that an option for us to go with a standard roof as opposed to a tile roof if it's significantly more, so that we can get the quality that you want and the...
We were going back with the tile roofs to keep the decor of the city, because we are not like in this, like in the community center, it's not the entire roof, it's a section of the roof. So it would look really odd if you just replaced it with a non-tile roof. The key for the leaks is the liner underneath the tile. I mean, tiles itself can have water go through and it won't go into the building because it's the liner below that gives you the water tight. And so that's the more critical thing to get done and corrected.
Sure, I understand. I have family members who are in construction.
Yeah.
You know, we put in new flooring and all of that. We don't want that ruined because we have leaks from the roof. I just thought in these times where we have such financial constraints, if it's something we could look at, we could add the tiles down the line, but at least it fixes the problem, and it may knock off part of this until we can add those tiles. I mean, you can't have a champagne taste on a beer budget. That's not how it works. So, all right, thank you.
All right, any more discussion on item D? All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, you asked to pull item H.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people in the community that have been very focused on our water rate increase from Golden State Water. I pulled this item because I just wanted to reiterate to the community that this council has been very focused on watching that the water rates. If you remember back in 2010, the California Public Utilities Commission entertained the Golden State Waters to request for an increased our rates over 20% less than a year and a half ago. Golden State Water came forward about 4 months ago, and what you're seeing here in our staff report is a letter that we went out and partnered with Cypress, Seal Beach, specifically in this letter, in a kind of a unified force to put together a letter of protest for this California Public Utilities Commission. They're considering now almost a 23% increase coming up. We don't have an issue with spending money on the infrastructure and trying to improve the water system, but it's a lot has to do with the rationale that's being utilized. So a lot of the infrastructure improvements are out in the mountain areas and way far away from here. And so a lot of it has to do with how much this specific region needs to pick up of the infrastructure costs. So one thing I wanted to do with the community, and maybe we can do this, and I'll ask the city manager, when they actually go through this tape again for the community, I'd like to have, if you could, put up on the screen the address for the California Public Utilities Commission, and I'd like to encourage all the residents in the community to get this address, which we'll make available to you on this telecast. We'll also have it at City Hall, and we have draft letters that we would like to have as many residents as we can send these letters in to the Public Utilities Commission, you know, again, really kind of expressing, you'll be able to see the template letter that we utilize. You'll see, you know, kind of the legal and the policy issues that we're dealing with, but really what we're looking for is to try to get as many folks involved. No one wants to see a 23% increase in their water rates after we've already paid a 20% increase, and I would just really ask the community to get behind this, and please help us out. City Manager, I'd also, if you could, just inform the community, we're also working with Stanton and a couple of the other cities outside of kind of our gateway group here. Can you inform the community on what we've been doing with that?
Yeah, the cities of Stanton and Placentia have been pretty active opposing this request as well, and we've been in communication with them, and we're going to coordinate efforts to get additional correspondence out and work with them in getting I forgot the exact term, but it's really the equivalent of a public hearing in this area, in this community, from the CPUC. There have been local meetings that the cities have generated, but the CPUC, the only meeting to date, has been in downtown Los Angeles, and the rate request is going to take some time, and I think there is time for that meeting to occur here.
So one of the things that the community also needs to know is our city manager has been kind of running a fine line. There's a definition of involvement on a policy issue like this called intervener, and when you cross the threshold and actually get into the legal fray on this rate issue, cities of our size probably couldn't handle, well, we would be able to in the short term, but the cost of this would be pretty expensive.
Right, and the reason there is, I mean, the city attorney could tell you as well, is that if you have intervener status, you have a legal status to make comments, and you have to be undergo an interrogation process from the CPUC. It's best on hand, since they're highly technical issues, to hire a utilities attorney to come in and pay a pretty exorbitant rate in answering those questions, and having gone through that in another city and racked up a pretty significant legal bill for very little return, I'd recommend we not do that here.
Yeah, so that's why we've been trying to leverage the other cities and trying to get as close as we could to that line. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you, and I'd move for recommended action.
All right.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. I just wanted to thank the Mayor Leroy Mills from the City of Cypress and Michael Levin for joining in with us on this letter and helping to bring it to the forefront, I guess, more than anything. Let people be aware that this is looming out there. All right. With that, that's the end of the consent calendar. And now we are going to move on to item 9A. And could we have a staff report on that?
You have on November, I'm looking for the item as we speak, the specific date in November, there is a city selection committee meeting when there's a series of positions that are going to be discussed for selection. One of them is the board membership on the RMC board itself. And I know candidate, or actually Mayor Pro Tem Edgar has asked that he wanted the council, if there's any interest on the council, if anybody else wanted to serve on that board, he's happy to relegate that, I think. But on the other hand, he's been so effective, he might continue on as well. So it's really the, oh, no, I guess not. And then there are a couple of other positions that are being discussed as well. So we just put this item on as a pro forma to see if the council had any thoughts on if they wanted to weigh in with the city selection appointment on these issues here. So that's why it's on the agenda.
All right, let me bring it back to the council. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
I read through this. I do want to thank staff for putting this in here. I'm not sure we'll have any questions. It seems like there are a lot of ways to serve, but I don't know what I'd be able to do. But thanks. I'll back to you, Mayor.
All right, we're going to move on to Councilmember Poe.
Thank you. We did send a letter, did we not? So that in the case that of our mayor not being able to attend, and he may, but we did send a letter, I believe, so that any one of the council could be the representative and vote.
We have clarified that, and just for clarification, the vote is on November 10th at 5 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also looked through these, and actually, to my estimation, I believe that the people that are in these positions already are most likely going to be asking to be reappointed, or they're going to be running for these seats again. And I think Troy has done a stellar job. And so if he would like to continue, I think he should. I certainly would support that. I know it takes a lot more money. I have served on the San Gabriel Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, and it does take a lot of time to go to the meetings. Their agenda packets are 5 times more than ours, so there's a lot of reading. It's a lot of work, but I think it would be good for Mayor Pro Tem Edgar to stick with this until we get the project that we have funded and underway. That's my feeling, and I'm fine with supporting the election of the others that are holding the seats that are here.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to the next one on rotation. It'll be Councilmember Edgar. He has a chance to.
Well, I did ask to have this agendized. I think that as a team up here, we all try to do as much as we can. So I don't take anything for granted. Last time I didn't attend this meeting, and I ended up getting reselected for it the last time and didn't even put in for it. So I thought this time I would just ask you guys consciously if you want me to continue. But if anybody's interested, please put your name forward. I did talk with Don Hansen, Huntington Beach, in a meeting down in Orange County at one league function. He did express and asked me to bring forward that he's currently the at-large member on OCTA. So we have John Morlock, Larry Crandall from Fountain Valley, and Huntington Beach City at Large is Don Hansen. He is very interested in staying in that position, and I told him I'd bring it back, and I'd just like, if we were okay with that, to support him in this process. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to bring it back to me, and I also think that you've done a fantastic job on there, and I see no problem with any of the other people that are on the board either. So if you're willing to stay on, I would also encourage you to continue on with the great work that you're doing on it. All right, going on to Councilmember Mejia.
I'm fine. I've been through this rodeo one too many times. Not going to beat a dead horse. So yeah, I support the people who are already in those positions.
Okay. All right. Do we need a motion on this? Nothing. All right, so it's, I guess, receive and file.
To go and vote?
There is a, no, I mean, at some point, I'd like to know who's going to attend the city selection committee. I don't know that there's actually any vote required tonight. The direction's fairly clear on where the council stands on this, and the representative is free to vote his or her mind on the other positions, other than the two discussed tonight. So.
Mayor, may I ask a question? Didn't we already decide on Warren being the one that would go?
That was the league representative on this. The city selection committee is a little different animal, and it's run through the Association of California Cities, or I'm sorry, the Orange County division of the league, but it is separate from the league representation. And after the last discussion on this item, we sent a letter out saying that every member of the council is eligible to vote, depending on who goes. So, and the default position, though, is the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember.
All right. In this case, it's going to be Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. All right, moving on. We're going to go on to item B, which is City Council initiated business and comments. So we're going to go to Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. See, I didn't know where to start. I know one of the things I would like to ask, I didn't ask at last meeting, it has to go to Angie, if I may. A member of the community had asked me about, I think this had been as a result of the new Coyote Creek Park that is going to be under construction, that Mayor Pro Tem Edgar is out, getting that for us. But a member of the community asked, what is the value of parks? What does it do for our community? And does it end up costing us more in the long run? So I wanted to ask Angie if you might comment on that. I really couldn't articulate a good, solid answer, but sort of intrinsically, I believe we get value out of it from recreational facilities, places for our members of our community, our children to go, and certainly I would hope the scouts would get to go with that. But
Can I ask that sort of catches her by surprise, and I'm sure she'll be articulate in defending open space in this community, but can we provide in writing? Is that okay? Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I don't think it has to be in depth. I think it just maybe a few words, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Councilmember Kuzimoto, I think the benefits are fairly obvious, but as the Director of Recreation and Community Services, I always like to speak about the value of parks. Parks create, well, open space and parks have tremendous value in communities because they let us breathe. Mm-hmm. They let us go out in fresh air. You can do anything in a park. You can be with your kids. You can be with your family. Creates community. You obviously can exercise. We have a big obesity problem in this nation. It gives you a place to just be yourself. And so this is a park poor community. We're very lucky that we've got a great relationship with the school district that provides us additional open space. Parks provide space for individual and group activities. So basically I could go on. And let me say one more thing about parks enhance property values. They do not take away from property values. Parks also help to create better air for us to breathe through grass and trees and all of that. So with regard to maintenance, maintenance does have a cost to the city, but I think it's a cost that is pretty worthwhile, all things considered.
Thank you, and sorry, Mr. City Manager. I warned her last week, our last meeting.
I didn't.
So.
Okay, I just didn't want to catch her off guard.
Yeah, and I just forgot it was rather late last time. Okay. The other thing, I attended the groundbreaking ceremony. I'll let Mayor Pro Tem Edgar speak to that. It was over at the Joint Forces Training Base, and it was a very nice, short ceremony. But I'll defer to Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. And then Lastly, I did attend the hearing for this lawsuit of the citizens versus City of Los Alamitos. And then afterwards, I thought long and hard about this, and I do have some concerns, and I articulated those to both the city manager and the city attorney. So I want to ask the city attorney, did you come up with any type of assessment of my concerns relative to the 3 members that were, part of the lawsuit that do have the benefit of legal representation paid for by Consolidated Disposal Services?
Yes, I have analyzed that situation. It's not legal advice that I would give on the record in public, but I have analyzed it. I'm comfortable with the situation, and can certainly give you any confidential report that you would like on the subject.
Thank you. And with that, no other questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move it on to Councilmember Poe.
Thank you. Well, this is has been a very sad week for our communities. I think that Dean Gross expressed probably what we all are feeling and have felt and continue to feel. I would like to ask that we close our meeting this evening in support of the community of Seal Beach and in memory of the victims and their families. On to business. On Wednesday, October 5th, I attended an OCTA 405 working group update, and at that meeting was Don Hanson, who is running for that seat, and Larry Crandall. And they both are doing a very, very good job as representatives, I feel. This is a group that has been put together, meets about twice a year, and has been meeting. As many of you know, I was on the council for 12 years. I was off for 2, and I'm back. I've been back, and I was attending these working group meetings in my first term. So this has been going on for probably 6 to 8 years, and it of course has progressed and so on. And they have come up with 3 alternative builds. And that has happened with many outreach programs over the years to all of the communities that are involved with that are adjacent to the 405. And there right now are concerns over the Measure M funding, which is lower than it was expected to be. And so because of that, determination of which alternative to build will be at issue. The third alternative, which would be the biggest widening and the most practical if you want to talk about the future, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, they are proposing toll lanes. And many people are against that. I personally am against that, but that's my own opinion. I do think that it would be important for us, and I have talked to our city manager, for us to have a update presentation here at the council, so people in the community are being kept up to speed on what is happening with the, well, let me back up a little bit here. We're going through here the 405 changes right here. We're all being affected by the closure of lanes and so on. This is what is going to happen after these projects are completed. And so it's important, even though we know that it's going to take a long time out there, we have to prepare for the future. So I think it's important for everyone in the community to be involved and to be updated on what the thought process is, how they can affect it, so on and so forth. So city manager has assured me that soon we will have OCTA here to representatives to do a presentation. On Thursday, October 6th, I attended the Orange County Library meeting. I'm the delegate for that board. And it was not a real long meeting. Our budget is on target. The hours and days have remained the same for most of the cities. It was more or less just an update, and again, those meetings are quarterly. On Wednesday, October 12th, I attended a joint meeting with the Los Alamitos Unified School District. We do this periodically. Jerry is on that subcommittee. She was ill and not able to attend. Again, it was, this follows through with what Angie just said. We are park poor, and it's very important that we remain involved with our school district, work closely with them, because much of the open space in our community does belong to the school district. So those are the things that were discussed, just the master joint agreement, construction projects. Their construction projects, as you all know, they're taking, I believe it's about 2 schools at a time, and completely rebuilding them, revamping them, and so on, to bring them up to date and nice for the community, but mostly for the children. So they're on target. There's going to be a problem with the gym space when they are refurbishing the gym at the high school, and that's being addressed. So those meetings are always very informative, and again, like I said, we just want to stay closely related in talking and so on and so forth with the school district, so that we're all on the same page in the community. Another thing that was talked about, and our city manager and police department are going to work on, is traffic at the high school, how we can work with the school district to make that better. On our list of demands, there was a cost for fencing for Orville Lewis Park. Could we just find out, is that project completed? It's done.
Yeah, it's all completed. They put the concrete barrier in, the new fence is up. The base is very happy with how we worked together on that.
Great.
And it turned out really nice.
Okay, very good. I've had some residents speak to me about this next item, which is, and being as I'm not a techie with communications, I have a hard time just using my phone. I'm not going to try at all to be articulate about this, but I know that when we entered into a franchise with Verizon, we were promised all kinds of things. And I know that there are places in our community where businesses and residents still are not connected wirelessly.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think that we need to hold their feet to the fire, and I'd like to see if we can have them come and give us an update.
The timing is about right. It's been about a year since they last came in and gave an update. I'll invite the Director of Governmental Affairs to come in again and provide an update on where we're at. There has been some progress, but it's been small. You're correct. There's still a lot of areas where FiOS isn't available.
Right, and I know that especially in this time when businesses are having difficulties, that's a really important tool for them, for their marketing and so on and so forth. So I think that it's not right to just give them a free pass. I think they need to fulfill the promises they made. And I would like to comment about the speed humps in the alleys. As I believe we all agreed, this is very, very important. Jerry went into a lot of detail. Safety for our community, and especially our children, is our #1 concern. And for me, the cost, I think that anything that we can do to make sure the children in the neighborhoods are safe, we can justify the cost. So if the speed humps that are there are not going to do the job, then we need to get the ones that will do it. And with that, I think I'm done.
All right.
Thank you.
Going to move on to Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and start off by also expressing our condolences to Seal Beach. I know that all of us on the council have called our colleagues down, Mayor Levitt and Councilmember Gary Miller, who I deal a lot with on a lot of different issues, and offering our prayers, our assistance, anything we can. Chief, I know the response I got back, specifically with Councilmember Miller or Mayor Pro Tem Miller, was that they were very appreciative of all the support. That it really felt like a community coming together when we needed to. So I would also say, what was really nice is it was good to see that yourself and the mayor put out a press release from the city that really kind of says, look, we're going to step back and follow your lead, seal, beach, whatever you guys need, but we're here. And I thought it showed great leadership on your part, Todd, to come up, and you too, Mayor, to be able to go up and just make the community, know everything's going to be fine. We're all going to have to make it through this. So I also, on a personal note, just wanted to send specific condolences to, Tom and Hattie Stratz. Very close with them. A lot of us are. Tom is the executive director for many years over at the youth center, and very tough. My prayers go out to them, especially for Laura, who was one of the victims of this process. It was just terrible. And much like Dean Gross, I got to switch subjects here fairly quickly, or I'm not going to be able to make it through it. But it's tough, and I just want them to know the community's behind them. On the business side, last week, the Orange County Sand District had a bunch of meetings. I just wanted to remind you, Mayor, that on the 19th, which is Wednesday, we have a big strategy session. I'm going to keep bringing it up because it's something I'm bothered by right now as the vice chair, and I'll be the chair, is that the rates are heading towards a problem, and it's the same problem that the water district has, and I'm going to have to eat some of my own dog food there. And I just want to make sure that when we get to the point of rates, everybody is comfortable, that they know what we've done and what we haven't done. It's very important to get feedback from yourself, Mayor, and we'll bring it back to the City Council. But we've got about a year and a half until the rate structures are going to have to be addressed. And I just want the community to know that we've been very proactive. We've restructured the debt. We pay about $100 million a year in debt payments for all that construction that took place for secondary treatment. And we've renegotiated all the union contracts, pension reform, all of that. But we've done just about everything we can. Next year, the Sanitation District, which is about a $500 million a year organization, goes into operations and maintenance mode, meaning no more big construction. So all of the bills that have been racked up have to start being paid through the debt, and we have to maintain all those facilities. So the next phase of what goes on at the Sanitation District has a direct effect, as we learned through the through a couple of elections, that it's what shows up on your property tax as a property owner. That amount is on there, and so when the rates go up, people directly equate it to being a tax increase. So as one of the leadership of the Sanitation District, I'm fighting very hard to try not to do that. And we're going to do everything we can, and my commitment back to the council is to get you involved every step of the way. Last week, on the October 11th, I attended the SARI, which is the Santa Ana River Interceptor line. It's a 54-inch pipeline that goes from the Inland Empire into Huntington Beach in the Sanitation District. It takes a lot of the, I'll call it citrus, brine, a lot of the industrial waste that comes from Inland Empire, and brings millions of gallons of that down into Orange County, into the Sanitation District. That line had been getting exposed. It's in the middle of the Santa Ana riverbed, and so it's been a project long before I was there. They've been trying to get this thing dug up and moved out of the line so that if we had a major rain, that it wouldn't basically release all that waste into the water and flood the rest of Orange County with wastewater. It's a $80 million project. We went into partnership with SAPA, Santa Ana Watershed Agency, Orange County Sand District, and the county supervisors, or the county with supervisor support. So the Sand District loaned $60 million to the effort, so that we could help them get it funded, and over time they'll end up paying that back to the Sanitation District. But it was a great event, and we got to do the groundbreaking there, and it was just a culmination of a lot of leadership way before I was involved. Councilmember Kusamoto had talked about, we had the opportunity on Saturday to go over to the Joint Forces Training Base. They had the groundbreaking for the U.S. Army Reserve Building. We were invited over there. Major General Frank is the commanding general over there, and basically this facility is a 52,000 square foot facility that's going to house the Army Reserve. A little nuance, that I think is really important to call out to the community is that, as a council, this council's been very supportive of that base. We support the base, and we really focus on supporting the military mission of that base. This construction project is a federal project that's overseen by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, if you remember through this process, we've been having issues with the state funding and what goes on at the base. You know, we've complained for many years that there's been kind of having problems. The federal government is starting to take more of an interest in that base, realizing the asset that it is, and they're putting this beautiful building in place. It'll create 1,000 jobs over the next 2 years right here on the base. People that go on the base, just as a kind of a community service update, is that if you go on the base and you go through the gate and you see the construction that looked like it started with the chain link fence, that isn't this. This is actually to the right of that. That building is the state project that started and is kind of in turmoil and hopefully will be restarted. But that was about a $23 million project that they're kind of going to back up and take another look at. This is to the right of it. It'll be done about January 2013. Councilmember Kusamoto, myself, Mayor Mills, Steve Jones from Garden Grove, Dean Gross from the RMAC. We had a lot of support out there. Councilmember Gary Miller from Seal Beach, and it was nice to get out there and see this. I would just want to also say, I think that from our city manager, it would be nice to send a letter of thanks from the entire council for inviting us out there. What they realized is that they had started this project and it had been ground broke months ago, but they were getting ready to go vertical, and the Major General had a decision that, hey, you know what, maybe we need to get the community involved at this point and let's start working together on stuff like this. One of the things that was a golden opportunity there was that there is a common theme at that groundbreaking and the Sari line is that the Sari line is in the Prado Dam basin. That basin, the Prado Dam, is managed by the Army Corps of Engineers also. So you have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers managing the $80 million project out there and this base project. And the head of the for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is actually a Rossmore resident, Colonel Toy. And I'm going to do a little bit of a public service announcement for him, is that Councilmember Kusamoto had talked to Colonel Toy, and we both encouraged him to come to our city council. He expressed an interest, and what I'd like to do, myself and Councilmember Kusamoto, is agendize to have basically Colonel Toy come. He would like to give us a presentation. Right now, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers headquarters is in downtown L.A. If you can imagine, to try to operate an army out of an urban environment is pretty expensive. They are the construction part of the Army. I would like to try and lure them or lobby on their behalf to get them to set up their operation here at the Joint Forces Training Base. He's very interested. That'll be something long past his tenure, but he wanted to talk to us about what was possible with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, what they may be looking for. And again, as Warren had done, we can lobby on their behalf and do like we did with the runway at the federal level to try to get some decisions to actually get very useful projects. Again, highlights for me is it was great to see federal money being spent at that base, long overdue, and this is a great sign. Next was the I wanted to tell staff, specifically Jeff and Chief, I appreciate the help with the ordinance on the sex offenders in the park. Susan Schroeder, very helpful in kind of moving this thing through, and I'm glad that we were able to get a majority pass on that. I think that it's really important to keep, to increase the safe environments for our kids, and I think that, you very quickly was able to work through this, and, taking a county ordinance and trying to make it more localized to the city. In the county ordinance, they're talking about beaches and harbors and valleys, and we're just a few short on that. But you guys did a great job of getting it down, so thank you, Chief. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, moving along, it's my turn. On October 12th, I attended the OCFA Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and unlike most of the meetings, we really got involved in public safety, along with what's happening in the surrounding communities around John Wayne Airport. And just as a point of interest for a lot of people, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's 120 flights per day in and out of John Wayne Airport. Now, just the landing and the taking off of the flights isn't the concern. The concern is that those flights fly over homes, our homes. And so we had a chance to go back and review what the FAA requirements were as far as public safety goes, and what kind of fire response and even police response in any action goes. And I was surprised. The FAA determines how many firemen, how many police, how many of everything involved in public safety by the length of the runway and not by the amount of flights that go through any one airport or by the amount of passengers and visitors that go through any one airport. It is projected that the airport out there will see 8.7 million passengers. And the FAA was rating us the same as they would Sacramento or a few of the other airports around. Whenever a plane takes off, it's not going over any houses. This ended up being a very, very long discussion with the OCFA and very spirited, and it's something that is going to continue on because we have other requirements, not just for the airport itself, but for the surrounding homes, even down as far as our city right here, and the amount of flights going in and out, and how can we respond, and are we prepared for any kind of a tragedy that might come up. So expect to hear more on that as time goes on, and I'm hoping that we're going to come up with a solution to it, because it's better to be prepared ahead of time than not prepared and have something horrible happen. Along with everybody else on the council up here, I wanted to let the residents of Seal Beach know they're in our prayers. All the people that are involved in this tragedy that happened in Seal Beach. Every day I have someone come up to me and say that they did have interaction with some of the people involved. And I wanted to thank our chief for responding as quickly as he did, because I know as soon as I heard it, I was right on the phone and he was already there. Called the city manager, and we had already sent all of our support down there too. So great response out of it. And I know the residents of Seal Beach appreciate it, because I hear it. And again, the mayor and the city council over there definitely appreciated all the help and how quickly we responded in a case like that too. This meeting tonight, we will be going into closed session, but I also want to let you know ahead of time that we will be adjourning this meeting in the names of the victims that were involved in that. And Randy Fannin is one, Lucia Condis, Michelle Fast, Victoria Buzo, Christy Wilson, and David Chevette, along with Hattie Stretz and the families too. So if we're not out of closed session in time, those are our intentions, and that's how we will be dedicating this meeting to. And again, you're all in our prayers, all the families. All right, moving on. Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just wanted to congratulate the Los Alamitos High School. They had their first choir show, and it was very entertaining. They sold out their tickets, I believe, for all night, so I wanted to say thank you to the community for being a part of that. They're always looking to draw more people in to showcase all the work they do over at the school. City Manager, I know I spoke with you about this, and maybe we can do it more formally. I asked the City Manager to do some research. We had a article that came out regarding some horrible actions that were taken by some bikers that frequent a local bar here in town. And there's two issues I'd like to bring up with that. I know that other cities have adopted ordinances saying that colors, which is, their patches and such, cannot be worn in their city limits. That gives our police officers the opportunity to stop them and potentially keep those people from bringing those horrible things that they do into this town. City Manager, were you able to do any research on that?
We just started, so...
You just started,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, if we can move forward with that relatively quickly. And also, I had several calls from residents saying, why didn't we know something about this when it happened? Because it happened back in, was it March, Chief, or May?
March or April.
March or April, okay. And I've spoken with the city manager, and he gave me the reason for that. But I'd like to ask that we set up some kind of a procedure within the council that we know what's appropriate for us to know so that we can act appropriately when we're addressing residents. I know this was something that was more in-depth than that, and if you could speak to it for just a moment so the residents understand, it wasn't that we were not looking out for them, we just were not aware of it because of the reason that you'll explain to them now.
Right. What I can say is from time to time our investigators come across information that's of a very sensitive nature.
Right.
And not all of the information that we have that involves ongoing investigations are we at liberty to share with the public.
Sure.
This was one of those.
Okay. All right, so if we can look into, I know you call us often when there are things that you think we might be questioned by the residents. If we can just have something where, in this case, it was a gang rape, correct? Potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially a gang rape. So I just want us to be able to be informed. As you said, I know that there are sensitive things that we can't discuss with the community, but we can do what we can to look out for them because that's why we sit up here is to...
Well, I got to weigh in on this. There's been no crime reported on that, correct? Part of the... Explain what that circumstances are.
Right. Another agency reported having information
right.
that type of crime might have occurred.
Right.
However, no victim has come forward.
Right.
So.
Sure. And that's why I think this ordinance, should we be able to move forward with it, is just another step to protect the people of Los Alamitos without having to inform them of things that are of sensitive nature that they can't know.
An outgrowth of that, and I understand that. We'll research that. But our reticent chief, what we're saying is we are investigating this. We're taking it very seriously. We have taken it very seriously. Because of the sensitive nature of the issue, they haven't taken it public, which they ordinarily would do in circumstances like this if a crime were reported. Mm-hmm. But now that the agency that was investigating this, and I think this is, which agency was it?
It was a task force of agencies out of San Bernardino involving the police department, the DAs, and the State Department of Justice.
They've decided that it's in their best interest to try to identify a victim. Should a victim step forward to publicize this crime, hence the reason it went out. But I got to restate, there was not a crime occurred that we weren't looking into or we're acting on. We are now actively searching in cooperation with this investigation.
Right, and that was not my, if that's what you took it as, that wasn't my inference. No. I was just saying, from a council's perspective, people are asking now that the articles come out. So I just want us to make sure that we do whatever we can to keep that kind of situation from reoccurring if it actually did. You know, we're having the gang members coming into the town and not doing all that we can to address giving the police the tools that they need to make sure that we're safe.
They would love to arrest Vagos, I'm sure. We'll research it vigorously.
Yeah, so. I mean, I just think if there's, we did that with item 8A tonight. We took a step to protect the residents. I think this is just something, and I've mentioned it before, and now that this has come up, I'm re-mentioning it from the dais and asking for it to be agendized. Have we, City Manager, gotten anywhere with the Rossmore situation? Have we met with the businesses over there? Have they given us any kind of...
We have met. We're meeting again, and we don't have a direction yet.
You don't have a direction. Okay. I wanted to make a statement. Well, actually, there's two things. I know that Rossmore has requested information, financial information from from John Morlock regarding the potential drain that supposedly they have on the county. Do we have any information on that?
I believe that information has been released.
Okay, so why don't, since the residents may not have gotten that, can we give it to him?
I believe so. I'll check to see if the document, I'm going to ensure that, but I believe they have released the information to the folks at the RCSD upon request, and if it's a public document, I will happily get a copy of that.
Okay, great. There was a statement that was put out on one of the local online newspapers, it was a statement by one of the council members that we intend to move forward with the annexation of that corner, and that we'll also be moving forward with the annexation of Rossmore. I just want to make it perfectly clear that's not something we've come to a decision on, nor can one person in this council make that decision on their own. So for any of you who have called me concerned with that, it still takes a vote of the 5 of us before we move forward with anything with regards to the corner of Rossmore or the housing area of Rossmore. So I hope that puts your mind at rest. City Manager, when are you going to be meeting with them?
We don't have a meeting date set. We're hoping to get together within the next 2 weeks to try to get a definitive direction that they would like to see.
Okay, great. And I'd just like that we make sure that the council doesn't make statements that don't reflect all of our opinions, because it gives the impression that this council has already come to a decision, and that's just simply not the fact. City Manager, I called you on this issue. After the last hearing for the lawsuit, we put out a press release, and I had people calling me saying, well, they know that the date came and went, where's the press release? Can you give me a little info on that?
We did issue a press release last time.
So we issue a press release when we feel like we've got something good to say, which was the council members were found not to be, I guess, guilty for a lesser term with regards to the trash contract. But when we sustain a blow and we're told by the judge that we have to go out and rebid the contract, we don't put out a press release. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me, unless our intent is to mislead the community. And this is nothing to you. I'm just saying I'm reflecting what I'm getting from the community, and there's frustrations that it seems like they're being led down a path.
Okay. I don't have any comment.
Do we plan on releasing a press release?
When there is a definitive direction from the council, without going into closed session, I certainly couldn't pull them nor get a definitive direction. It was not possible to craft a direction or a comment from the council that would make sense. In the other cases, you know, with the judge ruling that there were no corruption charges, that's pretty easy to draft a press release for.
Okay. Is there an appeal on that cause of action that was thrown out regarding the 3 council members? I'm hearing that. I just want to know, so when people ask me, I know what's going on.
Which cause of action are you talking about?
The one that individually named the council members.
Yes.
Yes, there is an appeal. Okay. All right, moving on. I wanted to thank Troy. He's been serving on the sanitation district for some time now, and I'd like to revisit the people of Los Alamitos to the election where Marilyn and Ken were brought back into office and have done a good job since they've been here. But there was some literature that was sent out to the homes, very nice flyer, that stated that Ken Parker raised taxes, I think it was something like 64%. And the reason I bring that up is because Councilmember Edgar has been very diligent in coming to you and telling you, you know, this increase is going to come up, this increase is going to come up, it's coming up, it's coming up. But nevertheless, he was one of the biggest, he opposed it more than anyone else on this council. And he said what Ken Parker did as our acting mayor was inappropriate, yet he stands to do the exact same thing. So I just want to say to Ken, on a personal note, I hope that you feel justified in what you did. It was for the residents of this community. It was in their best interest, and unfortunately, it was twisted during an election to make you look like you'd done something really horrible when all you were doing was looking out for your community. So I want to thank you. And also to say I hope you feel better. He's just had some surgery, and I know he's on the mend, so I'll be praying for you. And as far as my comments with regards to Seal Beach, I'd like to keep those on a personal level with the people that I know that were involved in that tragedy. And with that, I'll go ahead and, one last thing in closing. I'd like to apologize to Art DeBolt, Brad Sheridan, and Brad Taylor, because I think that when they came forward with regards to their concerns about this trash contract, they were active people in our community. They sat on our commissions. 2 of them were actually chairs of the commission and thought very highly of by the people that they served with. And they were summarily removed as really a punishment for standing up to the council and saying that this shouldn't be done. And then shortly after that, Brad Taylor, who is, his job is in traffic signals. and he was up for another opportunity to serve on the Traffic Commission, where he was a huge contributor, but as a punishment to him, he was not asked to join again, merely because he's had the, I'm sure from the council members' opinion, the audacity to challenge their word. I just want to say that these seats up here are to serve. They're not used to control what other people are doing. And I just want to say to those people, thank you so much for your service. I'm sorry that you're not on those commissions anymore. You were very widely liked by your peers, and you did a great job for us. And so for that, since you didn't get the apology from anyone else, I would like to apologize for the way you were treated and the fact that you were correct in your assumption that the ordinance was not followed. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back.
All right. Any items from the city manager? City attorney, do you have any additional items? Nothing. All right. At this point, we will be moving into closed session, so I would like to invite Councilmember Kuzimoto, Poe, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, and myself. And this is in conference with legal counsel.
City attorney, just a clarification. If the case is done, should I be in closed session or no?
No, you have a conflict of interest with respect to the case because you participated with the plaintiffs in this matter, and the case is not done. So
participated with the plaintiffs. Can you clarify that for me?
You said you met with the plaintiffs prior to the initiation of the lawsuit and discussed with them the claims that were the
yes,
facts underlying the claim.
And just to clarify, with most of the people in Los Alamitos too during the election, to make sure that they were aware of what was happening.
So the case is ongoing, and when there's a final resolution, everyone will know.
Point of order, though, to Mr. Mayor. So if once we go into close, if there is a decision made such that we would need to bring Councilmember Mejia back into closed to at least move forward, should we ask her to stand by? You know, I think it's a question.
Would anything be brought back tonight?
It's not possible for us to make a decision in closed that would require Councilmember Mejia's participation, because the only thing agendized for closed session is a discussion of the litigation. So the only thing that can happen is in closed session is a discussion of the litigation, and that's something in which she cannot participate.
Not the resulting actions that may happen depending on the decision we reach, right?
Because if it has to do with a remedy, would I need to be a part of that?
There are a broad range of things that could happen in the future, and many of those would require public meetings, public hearings, potentially lots of other things. There's no action to be taken in closed session tonight.
Okay, so very, very narrowly focused.
Anything other than the litigation.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
All right, thank you. And now we will adjourn to closed session.